Today we're going to talk about domain and range in functions. We know that the domain is always all of our x values and the range is always all of our y values. An easy way to remember this is that x comes before y in the alphabet and d for domain comes before r for range in the alphabet. So x goes with d and y goes with r. To identify the domain in different functions, we're looking for our x values. In an ordered pair, our x always comes first. When we want to write out our domain, we write them in order from least to greatest, and we do not repeat. So notice that even though there are two negative ones, I only write it one time. In a table, my domain is under my x values. We write them in order from least to greatest with no repeats. In a mapping, my domain is my first bubble. Just like before, we write them in order from least to greatest with no repeats. To identify the domain in a graph, we want to take our points and pull them to the x-axis because it's my domain. So my x values are -5, -3, 2, and 5. My domain would be -5, -3, 2, and 5. Let's identify my range. My range is my y values, so I'm looking for the second number in the ordered pair, and we write them in order from least to greatest with no repeats. In a table, my range would be under the y. We write them in order from least to greatest with no repeats. Again, notice that 8 is on there twice, however, I only write it once. In the mapping, the range is our second bubble, so we write it in order from least to greatest with no repeats. And to identify the range in a graph, we pull the points to my y-axis since it's range, and we list them in order from least to greatest with no repeats. So -2, 2, 3, and 4. In a continuous function, first you have to be able to identify what a continuous function is. A continuous function is a graph that has no breaks in it. So we looked at an ordered or a scatter plot on the previous page. Right here, this is a scattered plot. This is a continuous function because it does not stop. In a continuous function, my domain will always be all real numbers. We can write that two different ways. You can write out the words all real numbers, or you can use this fancy symbol, which is an R with two lines, and that stands for all real numbers. To identify the range in a function, we go to the tip of the graph, which is actually called the vertex, and we pull that point to our y-axis. So in this case, my tip of my graph is at -1 on my y, so my range is going to be y. Since the graph is pointing down, it's less than. If it was pointing up, it would be greater than. But this is pointing down, so y is less than or equal to -1. On the second graph, which is a parabola, we go to the vertex, or the tip of the graph, pull it to my y-axis, which is at -2. So my range is going to be y, again pointing down, so it's less than or equal to -2. On the third graph, we go to my vertex, which is at the bottom this time, pull it to my y-axis, it connects with -5. So my range is going to be y. This graph is pointing up, so y is greater than or equal to -5.